Hey everyone, my name is Keisha and welcome back to my channel. So I'm here with Jovi right now, my cute little baby. And so we just wanted to talk to you about some recent reads. So I've decided that I've been trying to figure out how I want to do this because I want to talk to you guys about books, obviously, but I feel like I haven't been doing enough reviews lately or at all on my channel. And I don't really do TBR videos anymore just because I don't usually stick to those much anymore. It's just kind of like what I feel. I've become very much a mood reader. So I was thinking, how can I do this where I can still kind of review books? And I thought about it and I was like, if I wait until the end of the month and do like wrap-ups, then a lot of times the way I am, I don't know if any of you guys are like this, but the way I am is that like once I read a book, I'll have a little bit of a hangover from it. I'll be excited about it for a day or two. I can remember it really well. And then after that, I have a hard time remembering it. And I know that I loved it or disliked it, whatever I'm feeling. But my emotions are just not as raw as they were whenever like I first experienced the book. So what I think I'm going to try to do in the future is to do like to kind of vlog my experience of reading. So not exactly when I start a book, but it'll be kind of like a vlog where I'll read a book and then as soon as I get finished with it, I'll vlog that like and tell you guys what I thought about it, and then just compile all those videos once I have enough books that I've read, and then that'll just be the video. So we're going to see how that works. But for today, I have already read 5 books recently that I don't feel like I've really talked about too much. So I want to go ahead and talk about those. So I'm going to do this from like my least favorite to my favorite. So I'm going to start off with The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This was my least favorite of the 5 books that I've read recently. And it's not because it wasn't great. Well, it wasn't great. But it just wasn't my favorite. So this was a 3-star read for me. And I only picked it up because I had been seeing it literally everywhere. Like I feel like so many people have been reading this. And I saw like some mixed things. I saw some 3-star reviews. I saw some 5-star reviews. I'm like, okay, this is a really intriguing concept, so let me pick this up. So essentially what this is about is, it was pitched as Steel Magnolias meets Dracula. And I love Steel Magnolias. I'm a Southerner. I'm from Tennessee. I like me some Southern class, some Southern Women Book Club kind of deal, whatever. I was like, I'm going to love this. Don't really like vampire stuff all the time, but I was like, it's fine. I'll probably like it. Well, this is not Steel Magnolias, guys. Like, I do not know why that was pitched as, like, being part of it or, like, similar to it. But it just, to me, it was not that at all. Maybe for, like, the first 30 or 40 pages of the book, I was like, oh, yeah, I like this group of ladies. It's really sweet. No. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't that. My boss at work actually read it too, and she said that it was more like the Stepford Wives. So if you've seen that, then that'll tell you a little bit. But yeah, so it was about this group of women that started a book club together. I think they're from Georgia, and they started reading like these true crime novels, and then all of a sudden, like one day, the main character, her neighbor, like attacks her, and she starts getting suspicious of some things, and her neighbor that attacked her son or cousin or uncle, it's been a minute since I've read this, somebody that's related to her, has like come to town, and she gets suspicious of him and thinks he's a vampire and that he has something to do with some of the disappearances of the children that have been going on in town. And let me just tell y'all, like, this book, like, if you don't like gory and weird and just like horror, don't pick it up, because like, if you don't like that stuff, and I'm just being honest, like, I'm not used to reading horror and like super gory stuff, and to me, like, I was just uncomfortable for a lot of it. And there's something that happens in the story, like the main thing that's going on, and it like, just, I don't want to give away anything. Like, I'll put a trigger warning on there. I don't want to say what for. It's something that happens that isn't necessarily that, but it reminds me of that so much that I want to say trigger warning, but I don't want to say what for because I don't want to spoil it. So just like kind of research this book before you decide to read it. But yeah, like, it was weird. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but everything was really predictable for me. Nothing really surprised me. Everything was kind of like laid out in front of you, and that's not really what I wanted because it's like pitched as a suspense. And I guess it was suspenseful, but it wasn't like enough of a thrill for me, except for the times where like really uncomfortable things happened, and then I was just like, oh my gosh, like, do I want to continue reading this? Like I think it was like 50 or so pages in is the first thing that happens, and then the second thing happens like 100 or so pages after that, and I was just like, I do not know if I want to read this, but I kept going because I had like seen so many different people talk about it, and I was like, I'm gonna keep going. So I did, and ended up like I enjoyed it okay. Like it was fine. It's just like not my type of read. So like I feel like some people, you know, would like, it would be fine. Like if you like horror, like I said, if you like horror and you don't mind gory stuff and you like, I don't even know how to describe this, you might like this book. But for me, it was just like, it was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't phenomenal. It's just okay. It was good. Like I can appreciate that it took the author like some thought to like get through all of this. Like, I mean, it was well done in that sense, but like, it just wasn't my kind of book, so that is why my rating was 3 stars. Now, my coworker and my boss also read this book, and my coworker rated it about 3 stars, and my boss rated it like 4 or 5 stars. So we have different tastes in books. My boss clearly likes horror novels more than me and my coworker do. But yeah, so I think, like I said, you might like it, but if you're like me, if you kind of have like a similar reading taste as I do, then you might not like it as much. But yeah, solid 3 stars. The next book that I read was No Exit by Taylor Adams, and this was like completely a random read for me. It was not on my radar. I had seen it everywhere. Like, I feel like everybody on BookTube has read this book, and I've just kind of grazed over it. I haven't been into mysteries since recently. We've talked about this before in previous videos. My coworkers love mysteries, so I am thus being peer pressured. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not being peer pressured. But I'm kind of being influenced by their love of mysteries, and so I guess I'd seen somebody recently read it. I believe it was Carly from Carly's Chapters that had read it. And so that was kind of like the last straw for me. I was like, okay, so I need to read this book because everybody's read it, and I'm into mysteries now, so I want to see what I think. And I really enjoyed it. Like, I feel like I was surprised by this. I wanted it to be a little bit more, like, I wanted there to be more of a twist in parts, but there were twists and turns. There are typical like kidnapping cliches in here, so if you're familiar with all of that stuff, some of the things might not surprise you as much. But I thought this was a really great book. It's about this girl, I believe her name is Darby, if I'm remembering correctly, and she is a sophomore in college. She's like 110 pounds, and she's like 5'2". So while I'm not a sophomore in college, like I'm older than her. In other senses, like I felt like I was her. I visualized myself as her character. But let me just tell you guys that Darby's very brave, because she was going home through this blizzard. She was on the interstate, and she ended up having to stop at a rest area because the blizzard was just getting so bad she couldn't drive anymore, and she's stranded there with 4 strangers. And so they're all just kind of, in there playing some games, just trying to pass the time. And she goes outside to try to get a cell phone signal to see if she can call out, either for help or just to call her mom. She's trying to go to the hospital to see her mom because her mom isn't doing very good. And so she's trying to reach her mom, her sister, or reach any help at all. And when she goes outside to try to find a signal, she ends up looking in the window of the van that is parked next to her. And she sees that there's a little girl trapped in an animal cage in this van. So the whole story is based off of her trying to figure out, what should I do? I can't just ignore this, but we're in a blizzard. There's nobody, going down the roads or anything. There's no way I can get help, but I can't leave this little girl here. And so she is just so brave to go through the things that she goes through, do the things that she does to try to help this little girl escape. Like I said, there are some twists and turns that happen along the way, and it was good. It was so good. At the end, I was crying because it was so good. So it evoked emotion, and as we all know, when a book can evoke emotion in you, that means that that's good. I don't care what kind of emotion it is. And that's actually something I forgot to mention in the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. So we're going to go back to that for just a second after I finish saying No Exit things. So with No Exit, I rated this book 4.5 stars. The only reason that I didn't rate it 5 stars is because I was expecting more of a twist. But this is still such a good book. It's very much a contender for being one of my favorite books of the year. It's not my favorite, because I already know what my favorite is so far. But it's so good. I don't know really much to say about it, except that I enjoyed the read. I felt like it was a quick read. It does only take place over the span of one night, but I felt like it was done really well. The author did a really good job writing it. It was suspenseful. You're always wondering like what's going to happen and how is this girl going to get through all of this. So it was definitely a good read. But now let's take just a second and jump back to the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And let me tell you about my emotions with that book because I forgot. The reason that my coworkers even read this book, because like they were kind of intrigued by it, but like the reason that they read it was because of my emotions. I would come into work every day and just be like, oh my gosh, like I don't know how to feel about this book. Like my first initial reaction was, oh, I love this book. It's so good. I love these ladies in this book club and this is just going to be great. No, y'all. Then my emotions were, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm reading this. Should I put this down? This is just really uncomfortable. Like, I can't believe this happened. Reading this is just like, oh, like, I don't know what to, yeah, I don't know. Then in the whole middle of the book, I was so mad because the husbands in this book are so patronizing. They gaslight women. It's absolutely atrocious. I cannot take it. I wanted them all to die. Sorry, guys. But like, oh, these men in this book, which this took place in like the 90s. To me, it kind of took place earlier than that with like the way some of the things were, but regardless, it made me very, 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 very angry. And that was probably my most prominent emotion throughout this whole book. Then at the end, I was just kind of ready for it to be over because like I was tired of feeling all the things. But anyways, like I said, it was 3 stars. It was good. But if you want to feel emotions, check that book out. I had to go back and mention that because like I said, my emotions throughout this whole book were freaking crazy. Like I was on a roller coaster ride. And that is why my coworkers picked it up. So maybe it'll be why you pick it up. Maybe I can convince you. Like I said, though, just know that there's gore. There's some really weird things that go on in this book. So if you don't want to read that, don't read it. But if you don't mind that, you might like the book. So I had to go back and tell you guys that. The next book that I've recently read is In 5 Years by Rebecca Serle, and I just kind of wanted to read something a little bit shorter and a little bit different because I'd been reading a lot of mysteries, and so I read this book. I'd been wanting to read it. I've heard so many good things about it, and so I decided to pick it up. And y'all, like, this is an adult romance, okay? But for me, it was more than that. It was more like a friendship, like the love of friendship and how, like, strong these two girls' relationships was in this book. But the story is about this girl who, she has this perfect life. She's got her life laid out before her. She's got a 5-year plan. She knows how everything's going to happen. She's engaged to this guy that's like her perfect man, and she's got the perfect job. She's a corporate lawyer. And then all of a sudden, one night she comes home and she falls asleep and she wakes up 5 years in the future in a place that she does not recognize, in a house she doesn't recognize, a part of town she doesn't recognize. And there's a man in her house that is not her fiance. And so she's kind of thrown off. She's there for like an hour and then she wakes back up in, present time. And this just kind of shows like how that affects her, how she starts to make choices throughout her life to, make her life still go the way she planned it and not how this was. She tried to blow it off as just a dream, but then one day, 4.5 years later, she ends up actually meeting the guy that was in her dream, and the guy that was in her dream is introduced to her as her best friend's boyfriend. So I thought this was going to be very similar to, if you've read One Day in December by Josie Silver, I thought that's kind of the vibes it was going to go for. No, completely different direction. So good. It was about the girl friendship, which it was like that in One Day in December too, but I thought it was going to be a lot more like banter and stuff and like just, I don't know. I just thought I was going to laugh more, and let me just tell y'all, I didn't actually cry, but there were so many times where I got choked up and I was holding back tears and I just like could not believe what this story was about because it's not where I thought it was going to go. About halfway through, like I was into the story, it was going to be like, 3 or 4 stars. And then halfway through something happened and the whole rest of the book, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is so good. And I ended up rating it 5 stars. So definitely recommend this one. Next is actually 5 books, but I'm just going to put the picture of the first book right here. So next is the series Space Boy, and this is by Stephen McCranie. I can't remember. I was supposed to write down his name and I forgot. So like it's going to be on the book over here. Stephen McCranie, I think maybe is what his name is. Anyways, this is a middle grade graphic novel series that I just randomly picked up on a whim because I'm always just looking for graphic novels to kind of be a good, just for an in-between read for me. And this book, or this series, so like we've got the first 5 books at the library, and then I think 6, 7, and 8 are coming out this year, and 6 may have already came out. But regardless, this series is so good. Especially like, I don't want to even say so good for a middle grade because like obviously middle grade graphic novels are good. But I was just surprised that I liked it so much. I wasn't sure. The first book gave me total Xenon vibes. Like if you or watching old Disney Channel movies, Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, like that is totally the vibes that I got from the first book. Because this girl lives on the space station and she ends up having to come to Earth and all this stuff happens. I don't want to spoil too much of it because it is short, but that's kind of the gist of like that part that reminded me of Xenon. I don't want to say anything more. But this boy, she meets this boy called Space Boy. Or that she calls Space Boy, and he's just kind of like to himself. And so something about the main character is she sees people's flavors, like everybody has a flavor, which kind of like describes their personality, and she can't read this boy's flavor because he's just kind of like there. And so as she gets to know him, he ends up having a flavor, but then he kind of pulls back and he's like, I can't, like we can't get, involved, like we can't be friends because it's dangerous for you. So like the premise of the story is so good. I still have no idea what's going on 5 books in. Like, I still don't know what, I have my theories of like what kind of person he is and all that stuff. But it's so good, and it makes me like every time I finish a book, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to read the next one. Like I read the first 3 books back to back, and then I read the next 2 books, and then now I'm just like waiting for our library to get the rest of them, the new ones. But this is a great middle grade graphic novel series. If you need something just to kind of cool off between some heftier reads, definitely pick this up. And then the last book, the best book of all, my favorite book of the year so far, is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. So Riley Sager is becoming one of my favorite thriller authors. You guys know that I'm just getting into thrillers, and Riley Sager is kind of like my first little dip into, well, I guess Alex Michaelides was my first like dip into the genre, and he's great too. If you haven't read The Silent Patient, you definitely need to, because I loved it. The twist like was crazy. But then I read The Last Time I Lied. And the atmosphere is great. Like it's set at a summer camp. So I feel like that's my thing. Like I want to read all the summer camp books. So if you have any recommendations, leave them in the comments. But it's like this story of, there's 4 girls that went to summer camp, and 3 of them go missing, and one of them doesn't go missing. And they never figure out like what happened to them. So the camp closes down, and 15 years later, the camp reopens, and the director wants the girl that was left to come back and be an art director at this camp. So this girl, since the camp closed and everything, her life has gone on. She's become an artist, and she has painted a series of paintings of these girls that went missing, like the girls, her cabin mates, and she covers them up with trees. Like she paints them in white, covers them up with trees, and then she's got this like art exhibit that she has, and that's where the director of the camp comes back and asks her like, hey, can you come back and be the art director? So she decides to come back, and of course she's trying to figure out what happened to the 3 girls. And so that's like the whole thing of the story, is you're trying to figure out what happened to the 3 girls that disappeared. And y'all, it was so good. Like Riley Sager's writing is so good anyways, but then like all of it was happening, and I was thinking, okay, this is gonna be a 4-star book for me. Like it's gonna be good, but like it's gonna be 4 stars. I had read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and I gave it 4 stars, and that's just like a personal thing with me. Like I just wish that the twist would have been something different. So this was my second Riley Sager. Got through it, and at the end I was like, I think this is just gonna be 4 stars. And then the twist happened, y'all. Okay, I wish so badly that I could have recorded my reaction to it, because I was flipping out. Like I was running across the house telling my husband and our roommate, like I was like, let me tell you about this book, let me tell you what happened, which I just spoiled the whole book for them if they ever wanted to read it. But I could not help it. I couldn't breathe. When the twist happened, I literally my heart skipped a beat. I couldn't breathe. I was like that. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, like I can't catch my breath. It was so good. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. Like just completely out of nowhere. So good. So if you want a book with a good twist that's like set at a summer camp, it's a good summer read, like in my opinion too, this is the book. Like this is my favorite book of the year right now. The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. So all the emotions, all the things, great thriller, great twist, so good. If you know of any books that are even remotely close to how great this book was, please leave it in the comments, because I am wanting all the recommendations for books similar to that, or books with great twists. All right, guys, so that's going to be all for my recent reads. I'm not really sure what I'm going to title this video, probably recent reads. But like I said, in the future, I hope to have a more candid vlog style discussion on books, as soon as I get done reading them. That way you guys can see my raw emotions, because after a while, I just get to a point where like, I still really have strong feelings towards books, but like the emotions have kind of died down, and so I just don't feel like that's as interesting. So we're gonna hope that this works out, but I did want to tell you guys what I've been recently reading and give you kind of my reviews on those. I can't remember if I said Space Boys was 5 stars, but the books I read were The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, that was 3 stars. No Exit by Taylor Adams was 4.5 stars. In 5 Years by Rebecca Serle was 5 stars. Space Boy volumes 1 through 5, all of those were 5 stars. That's by Stephen McCranie, I believe is the author. And then The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. My favorite book of the year is All the Stars. It's 5 stars, but it's all the stars because it was great. So I'll try to keep you guys updated. I want to post more book reviews like this just because I feel like I talk more about books than I actually talk about like the actual reviews of what I think about them. So we're going to see how this goes. But if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos from me, then hit the subscribe button and the bell so you can get notifications for any new videos that I post. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night wherever you're at, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.